Hey everybody, welcome to episode 20 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast, 20 minutes with some of the world's top fitness professionals. I'm your host, Anthony Rearick. You can check out the show notes at stop20podcast.com. That's stop20podcast.com. Make sure you go to iTunes and subscribe to the show. Leave us a rating and a review. Super important, trying to get the word out there for the show, and that's something that really helps. All right, for today's episode, I have on Brendon Rearick, and Brendon is a trainer and licensed massage therapist in the Marin County and San Fran area. He's formerly a trainer and internship coordinator, program director at Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning in Woburn, Mass., where he still works for Mike and the company, but he's the co-owner of Movement as Medicine, along with Kevin Carr and Marco Sanchez, future Stop and Give Me 20 guests. He also co-owns the Certified Functional Strength Coach, and he's part of a young group of coaches that I've always referred to on the Strength Coach podcast as the super trainers. So Brendon, thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me on, Adam. I'm glad I could be considered a super trainer. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. All you guys and your crazy education. I don't know what you guys are thinking. You could have got a weekend cert and you could have been doing this.
I know, right?
Brendon, let's get right into it. What's your story?
All right. Well, let's go back. God, a couple Christmases ago. I'm 12 years old. Football is my entire life. And I got two 20-pound dumbbells for Christmas from my mother. Santa. I got them from Santa. And I would sit in my room, do concentration curls, skull crushers, and push-ups, watching Rocky movies and probably reading every single Muscle and Fitness I could get my hands on. And it was all to just be a better football player. And I played a lot of sports, but football was specifically my favorite. And moving on, when I was 17 years old, I was hoping to get a D1 scholarship and play in the NFL someday, every young boy's dream, and win a Super Bowl ring. And I realized that dream was not happening as I wanted it to. So I thought to myself, what was the next way that I could win a Super Bowl ring? And it was to be a coach. So from that day on, I knew I wanted to be coaching football somehow, but I also had to go. I was going to go to college, so I go to college actually went in as a civil engineer, and because civil engineers make a lot of money, right, coming out of college. So that was that was my main objective in the beginning. And then I remember sitting in class, or my first week of classes at UMass Amherst. And I was in properties of concrete, land surveying, and calculus 4 and 5.
Oh, man.
And I was like, what am I doing with myself? This is not what I want to be doing. And I was like, what do I really want to be doing? What do I love? And I loved being in the gym. I loved the process of lifting weights and the slow progression and seeing the transformation and carry over into the sports and the playing field. And then that day I decided to switch my major to kinesiology, and now here I am.
All right. Well, it's interesting at 12 where you were doing it for performance. So I love it. We did, because a lot of times, a lot of us talk about this. A lot of people who come on, a lot of young men who come on and talk about how, the body changed a little bit. The girls were looking,
Yep.
I got two quick ones. Was it on your Santa wish list to get the 20-pound dumbbells? And B, did it turn into an aesthetic thing?
It was on my wish list, and then the next year was a full power rack with a 300-pound weight set, which I also got. And it was a little bit aesthetics, of course, being a 12, 13-year-old male. You do care about how you look. But it really was, for me, playing in the NFL. That's what it was all about. I remember I used to sit in my room, and my dad told me all about Walter Payton. And I used to watch old Walter Payton highlights of like him running up hills and his training regimen. And that's all I wanted to be, Walter Payton. to be honest.
Sweetness.
And that wasn't even, I wanted to be Sweetness, and that wasn't even in my time period. I used to watch all the old NFL films on him. And so, yeah, for me, it was really just to be better at baseball, football, basketball, soccer, and football specifically.
Nice. Like it. Interesting. All right. Well, who was that superhero growing up? Who was that person maybe that, or, that you were looking up to? I mean, being such a huge football fan, might have been Walter Payton, but who is that superhero growing up?
So for me, my superheroes it was a collection of people. And more specifically, I think my superhero, I could say, was sports. Because, there's just so many life lessons that I learned. It kept me out of trouble for I never had a drop of alcohol until I got to college, because if anything was going to affect my performance on the field, I wouldn't do it. It kept me out of trouble. Schoolwork became super important to me, because I knew to get to college, you had to have good grades, and to stay on the football team, you had to have good grades. Taught me teamwork, taught me to pay attention to the details. By my junior year, I was actually captain my junior and senior year, so it taught me leadership. And then I had a lot of amazing coaches. I had a lot of bad coaches, so I learned a lot from both of them. And I also go back to this idea of concussions, and if I had let my own son play football. And I know for me, even with the concussions, knowing what I know now, football, I don't want to say football saved my life, but it definitely changed or made me who I am today. And even knowing the concussion stuff, I would still go back and play from when I was 8 years old until I was 18 years old, because of the life lessons that I learned from playing the sport.
Interesting. That's an interesting answer. Love it.
Yeah.
What about now? Because again, I know you read, I think last year, I forget what your goal was, maybe to read 52 books in the year. You do so much reading. You're around so many amazing people. Who's your superhero now?
So, there's Coach Boyle. There's all my coworkers at MBSC. There's all the speakers that perform better and on the circuit and stuff. But at the risk of sounding a little conceited, just hear me out here. I'm actually going to say myself. And they say to be the superhero of your own movie. And over the last 2 years, you could definitely probably say I've gone through a quarter-life crisis. I've had a lot of changes. I've gone through a lot of things. And I'm finally at a point in my life where I'm very, very comfortable with who I am. And I appreciate myself, my abilities, what my limits are. And I no longer seek external motivation or affirmations. And I don't feel like I have to validate myself to other people anymore. And I'm sure this is just a part of getting older and also my experiences, but it's amazing to just be me and be comfortable with myself and who I am. And in 5 years, I'm sure my superhero will change. But right now, I feel like I'm finally the hero of my own movie, which I'm happy to say.
Yeah, that's incredible. Actually, it's an incredible answer. And I think we do. It's probably, if I had to give a letter to my younger self, I would probably go back and almost say you should be your superhero to yourself earlier in your life and understand and be more comfortable. So great answer. Now, without saying, you have a daughter, Rain, and anybody that follows you on social media, we wait for the videos to come up, which you haven't posted in a while. So I got to say, let's get on the program here. She's adorable.
Right. Thank you. Proud dad.
Who are you trying to be a superhero to with what you're doing? Again, besides Rain, but who are the people you're really trying to help? Because again, you're a trainer. You've done all these things. You're teaching. Who do you really want to help with what you're doing?
So the way I explain kind of why we started the CFSC, well, for me is one, we wouldn't do it if we didn't feel like it was the best thing out there. And we wanted to share that with the masses. And I also, the way my brain works is that, we train the trainers, and that, so say I have a group of 10 people, I have an effect on just those 10 people standing in front of me. But if I can help another trainer and train the trainers and make them a better coach and a better person, and by sharing the things that I've learned and that sharing the things that Coach Boyle has taught us, then if each of those trainers train 10 people, that's 100 people that you've made an effect on. And then if those trainers train more people, then you've got this ripple effect through the entire industry. And that's really how I think about what we do and who I want to be a superhero for, is like every single CFSC course, I want those people to feel like they have something that they can bring back and use to make themselves better and to make their clients better and to help other people get results. And I also want I want people to feel like I want to create more leaders. I don't want to create more followers. So I think a good leader will create other leaders, not more people to just follow and listen to everything that they said. So that's kind of who I would like to be a hero to.
It's funny. I think, knowing you and being friends on social media, even if I didn't know you, I think you do a lot towards trying to lead and to set a good example. But how do you do that in kind of the certification or in teaching? How do you feel like you can help them become better people, besides, because we're really talking about, ideally with coaching, you can have them become a better coach, you can have them teach them progressions, etc., all the great things that the certified functional strength coach does. But how do you help them become a better person?
So I think that actually comes after the certification. So like you said, the beginning is progressions, regressions, sets, reps. We do have an art of coaching piece in our lectures that you get beforehand, but a lot of it's the science piece of it. And after the certification, it's not like we stop talking to you. We're open. We have the Facebook group, which has 1,000 people in it now. And actually we respond to everything. And then I try to befriend everyone who's in the certification, because now it's kind of a bit of a family. And then by me living my best life and having all those people that I can network with, and they can follow me and see what I'm doing. And like you said, like if anyone follows me on social media, they'll realize very quickly I post nothing, at least on my Instagram. I have nothing of me doing any exercises. It's my daughter. It's what book I'm reading. It's what I did for myself this past week to get better. There's nothing of me doing any exercise at all. So I feel bad for people that want to follow me for training advice. That's where you go to my Movement is Medicine account. But my personal stuff, like I try to empower other people with just kind of living my best life and then sharing that. And I think that trickles over. And when you have Marco and Kevin on, you'll also see that they're doing the same thing. So it's like, it's partly who I surround myself with as well, because if those people follow us as people, then I feel like we can have an effect on the industry that way.
Agreed. I think I would say, like, even with Coach Boyle, maybe there were things that he's maybe didn't mean to do specifically that has had an influence on me. It's why I resonated, his message always resonated with me. So, so I agree that you don't always have to specifically be doing something, but it's how you live your life. Good stuff. Brendon, let's take a minute and a half. Cause again, you last year, what was the number of books you were supposed to read last year? 52?
No, I set the number at 100 last year.
Oh, Jesus.
Why 100? I don't know.
Yeah.
I picked the high number that I thought maybe I could reach. And more for me, it wasn't about the number. It was about the actionable steps to reaching that type of number. Like, hey, get off your cell phone and read a book.
Yeah.
Listen to it when you're in the car and you're driving. I have a long commute every day. So it was more about like the actionable steps. I read 72 last year.
Wow. Nice.
And again, I made the goal again at 100 this year. I'm trying to keep up with Mark Fisher, who read 119 last year. He didn't count them. I counted them.
Okay.
So
nice.
I wanted to get some perspective. I'm like, where am I at here? And Mark Fisher's crushing me. So I'm trying to keep up with that dude. But no, it's more of just like I just love learning, and try to read everything that I can, and not just on strength and conditioning. So.
All right. Yeah, no, absolutely. What, give us a recommendation of a book and a 20-second synopsis of something that you just want to, like, right now, you've been lately, you're excited, you want people to read.
You want a book that you can't put down? Shoe Dog. The way, the analogies and the adjectives that he uses, it's so well written.
What's it called?
Shoe Dog. Phil Knight, the Nike story. Yep. And I couldn't stop listening to it. Actually, I would actually park my car and sit in the car for an extra 10 or 15 minutes to listen to the end of the chapter, which never happens. Usually when I get home, I'm out of the car, but I would actually sit in the car, and I would actually be excited for my next drive in order to listen to the book.
I agree.
So I think that's all the what you need to pick that up and start reading it.
I did not want that book to end. I agree 100. I thought, man, I gotta find another Nike book or Phil Knight book, something about him, because that was a brilliant book. I loved it. Good stuff.
Did you feel like that was one of the most well written books you've ever read?
It really was. Just the way he told the story and went back and forth, and it was. I felt like I was there the whole time. So good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, Brendon, now it's time for the stop, and give me 5 seconds, 5 rapid-fire questions and answers. Not always answers, but all right, here we go. Listen, you've taken FMS, MoveNet, NKT, Rock Tape, FRC, PRI, Precision Nutrition, SFMA. You've had them all. You cannot pick Certified Functional Strength Coach. If you had to do it all over again and you were allowed one certification, that's it. We're like, Brent, going back to no school, you got one cert. What are you going to take?
The FMS, Functional Movement Screen. It's got neuro, it's got patterns, movement, assessment. It's a system. You can replicate it. It's got a common language. It tells you what not to do and what to do. It put everything together for me, and I think it's a great place to start.
All right. Coolest fitness experience?
All right, I got 2. So when I moved to San Francisco, I did adult gymnastics for a year, which was awesome. And I now have a huge appreciation for what people do in gymnastics, being able to control your body. And the second would be sitting at Mike Boyle's kitchen table at 20 years old, listening to him and Jan John share stories about life and fitness. And it was a Mike Boyle winter seminar almost 10 years ago. It was awesome.
Yeah, that was a fun night. I wasn't in that living room. I was at Mike's house, but then I left, so I didn't get to see that. Cool stuff. Weirdest teaching or coaching moment?
I got 2 embarrassing moments. So the first one was the first CFSC course I taught. I was doing chin-ups with the band around my foot, and I did one, and I'm speaking as I'm demoing, and the band snapped up and hit me in the man parts. That was that was first course I ever taught on my own. And then the second one was, Kevin Carr will laugh when he hears this. I tucked my shirt in and wear some fancy pants, which isn't normal for me. And I actually tucked my shirt in to my underwear, and you could see it. And Kevin could not stop laughing and proceeded to tell me in the middle of me teaching my hands-on that you could see that I tucked my shirt in my underwear. So that was pretty embarrassing. Nice. I won't do that again.
I don't think they did CSFC 2, those people that were there.
No.
You guys are huge ice cream connoisseurs. Best ice cream place. You always post all these different places you go to. What's the best place?
San Francisco, Humphrey Slocum's. They have a flavor called the Special Breakfast. It's bourbon and cornflakes. Wow. I haven't found anything better than that.
Might be a trip just for that.
Yeah, if you ask me a pint of ice cream, it'd be Ben & Jerry's Cherry Garcia. And then Jenny's is this new pint of ice cream brand that everyone's been talking about. So Jenny's is like, you can get it ordered to your house too. So I got to try that. I've heard great things. So I've heard it's better than Ben & Jerry's. So we'll find out.
All right. And you can have an ice cream with a famous person from history, living or dead. Who is it?
I think Coach John would. I feel like he would just give me the best fatherly advice you could ever get.
All right, nice. All right, Bren, what's anything you working on that's kind of getting you excited right now?
So, I mean, we've got all the CFSC stuff that I've been continuing to teach. So I'm in Australia in 2 weeks. I'm in Vegas, Utah, San Francisco, and then Brazil in May. So that's exciting. Personally, I have an exciting project. I've been looking about getting I've been obsessed with tiny homes and tiny houses since I was a sophomore in college, and I think people would probably call me a minimalist, which I think you could call me that. And it's a house that's under 500 square feet, and I've always wanted to have something in the mountains, and I've been looking, and hopefully I'll find it someday. But it's also kind of where my if you follow me on Instagram, my handle is Collect Moments Not Things, and it's kind of like my life creed. And I value myself, my freedom, my relationships, and not really items too much. So, but this project of getting a tiny home in the mountains really, really excites me.
Very cool. Love it.
Not fitness related, but
yeah, it's okay. All right, what's that? Let's finish up. What's your, the advice to your younger self? What advice would you give little Brendon?
So I actually just finished the book Tools of Titans by Tim Ferriss, and one of the questions was, what would you? He flip-flopped the question. It was like, what would your older self tell you now, and why aren't you doing it right now? What's your excuse? And I think my older self would tell me to have patience, and that you can't speed things up, but you also can't get that time back. So enjoy the process, enjoy the moment. And that's really what having a 2-year-old daughter has taught me to do. But if I was to go back and tell myself, because I was going to say patience at first, but now I would say I would go back and tell myself balance. So when I got sick and I stopped working for 6 months, I told myself I have the next 50 years of my life to work, and that 6 months off isn't gonna kill me, right? And I was working when I was younger. I was working full long days, and I was working 14 hours, and I barely slept, and I wore the amount that I slept and how much I worked as a badge of honor, right? I wanted everyone to know, and now I look back at it, I'm like, oh, what an idiot. But I don't regret it, because it taught me and gave me perspective to the life I live now. But I would urge myself to find a better balance between work, rest, people, study, love, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you really quick that I think even though you did work a lot, there was a huge positive. It's only money, but you were able to pay your college loan off in a really short amount of time. And if anybody listens to the Strength Coach podcast, if you listen to Brendon's episode, we talk about it. But not just from the financial reasons, but I think from a stress perspective and for being able to move on, being able to do some things that you want to do and pursue, that was an important thing. And you're able to maybe now teach younger people that it is possible, and with some focus. So I think it's fine. So awesome.
Yeah, the hard work's important, right?
Yeah, there you go. Like you said, you learned.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I learned.
Thank you so much for coming on. You're doing so many great things. It's again why I don't call you guys the super trainers just because of all your education, but just the way you guys carry yourselves, the way you guys are trying to live your life. You really are super trainers. So thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, and I appreciate everything you do for the industry. So thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for episode 20 of the Stop and Give Me 20 podcast. Thanks again to Brendon Rearick. Make sure to check out all the links to all his stuff at stop20podcast.com. Please subscribe to the show. Please leave us a review. Please leave us a rating. It'll really help me out. My name's Anthony Rana. Thanks so much for stopping by.